This is Territory Tales, the stories behind Oregon's Mount Hood Territory and all of the amazing people that make the awesome attractions we have here. I'm your host, Jared Lyman. Joining me, as always, is Molly Johnson. Molly, how's it going today?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Other than chilly, because, it's snowy out there. We have a snow day throughout Mount Hood Territory, but it makes it fun. Yeah, theoretically. Yeah. We've got a really fun show. Well, we always have a fun show. We got a really cool one. We have two guests today who are continuing the tradition of pioneering the wine industry here in Oregon, and specifically Oregon's Mount Hood Territory. We're joined by Tara and Carl McKnight. How's it going today?
Good.
Doing well.
They're both debating who's going to answer each of these questions. I think we're going to have fun with that alone. But jumping right into things, the reason we were excited to have you both on is because, me personally, I love like an intergenerational business thing where something goes on more than one generation. I've got this dream of like passing something on to my kids, and the only thing right now is they have my sense of irreverent sarcasm. But with you guys, wine has been in your family, especially yours, Tara, for 3 generations now, and it's continuing to go, and wine by marriage now. This is just, wine is your family. How does that happen?
It happened just when your parents decide to plant grapes and you just grow up with it, and you're just, yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, Tara is the president of St. Joseph's Winery in Canby, out between Canby and Aurora, and your father, Josef, is kind of like the godfather of the wine industry in Oregon. And he started back when there was almost nobody doing it, before people realized, hey, Oregon's pretty darn good for wine.
Right. Yeah. And we're probably 10 years or so older than some of the really old ones in Oregon. But there were maybe 24 of us when we first started planting the grapes. My mom just looked at my dad and said, hey, what are you going to do with this land? And because we have a bunch of land. And so then he decided to plant some grapes. He comes from a winemaking family in Hungary, and we planted grapes.
Well, and that was the thing, because his father ran a winery in Hungary, as you said. So did he go exactly with what his father did, or did he kind of bring some New World traditions to this farm, or is this strictly we're going back with the way we did it back then?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's his grandfather.
Oh, his grandfather. Oh, okay, so it's even further.
Right.
Okay.
His grandfather had a winery back in Hungary, and so he was a little guy, and then they were thrown off their land after the war, and so he went to Germany, and he was an apprentice. He wanted to become a brewmaster, actually, at the time, and keeping alcohol in the family. And so he went and he got to apprentice and be a baker, because they went to school and studied fermentation for a while together. Okay. It's a very different system over there. If you have a family already in the industry, then you get to go on into that apprenticeship program. But they were immigrants coming from Hungary, and so they didn't really have anybody. So so then they landed eventually in Oregon, and they found the climate was very similar to where they had come from in Germany and in Hungary, and they said, okay, let's do this.
And what I read was that they brought, you guys came over in a van, and one of you was a baby in the back. Were you the baby or your sibling?
My brother was the baby.
Okay.
He was, I think, 6 weeks old or 8 weeks old.
Oh my gosh.
And I was about 3 years old. And
you guys drove over from Chicago.
My parents met in Chicago, and they got married in Chicago.
Okay.
It's kind of a funny story. So Josef and Lily were both of German immigrants, and they met in the German-speaking part of Chicago.
Oh, okay. That is,
and so they met, fell in love, got married, and then they came out to Oregon on a fine spring day to visit Lily's brother, and it was sunny and warm. They just had 8 months of winter in Chicago, and they couldn't believe how nice this Mount Hood territory was.
Yes.
So Joe and Lily put a blind bid in on this piece of land. And I say a blind bid because
Joe did it.
Yeah.
He didn't tell his wife.
Oh.
Okay.
And so then in October, Joe got a letter in the mail going, congratulations, you own this farm in Canby.
Oh my gosh.
And they had lived in a nice neighborhood in Chicago, so they moved out to farm country in the van.
Wow.
So that's a bit of culture shock. Just
a little bit of culture shock. So Barlow Road, where we are, was not paved.
Oh, wow.
Halfway paved, yeah.
Yeah, it was 50 acres of mud that they had purchased. It was a former mink farm.
Oh.
And
Wait, like the animal?
Like the animal, and it didn't work because they had been planting them too close together. And so,
oh my God! How often are you using that joke? Because that's brilliant.
Every time.
I love it. That's perfect.
And originally a dairy barn too, which is what the winery is in now.
Yeah, you renovated right in the
So they had tried several other crops and then also had built up 2 bakeries. And so they were doing that full time and running the farm on the side. So these are hardworking immigrant story.
Not a whole lot of days off going on here.
No days off. And then they were making wine and hooch in the basement. And
love it.
He was doing well, apparently. And they would drive down to California and harvest grapes and bring them back up to make, because there were no vineyards around at Oregon to buy grapes from.
Oh, wow.
And so that's how it started. And then a few years later, Lily's like, well, if you're going to get serious, why don't you put in some acreage?
Well, and then as a guy like me who has trouble growing like grass in Oregon, for crying out loud, so my HOA loves me, what is it about the soil here in this region that is conducive to growing good grapes, good wine grapes?
So this is, the Oregon Bounty. We have fantastic soil. So this is volcanic soils that come in the Missoula flood. 50,000 years ago, they run through the Palouse of eastern Washington and then through the Willamette Valley. So we've got a lot of mixed soil, but not a little rich soil. But the other thing that we have is we've got some nice wet winters that keep keep grapes moist, and they're able to find their roots so we don't have to irrigate. And so this combination of warm summer, cool nights, great soil has been really conducive, and particularly for cool climate wines, and that's what we grow in Oregon.
Specialize in, yeah.
So white wines and Pinot Noirs, and it's the perfect combination.
How much experimentation was there when it came to, hey, let's see which kind of grapes are going to work? Did your dad say, I like these wines, so we're going to try these first, or is it, some knowledge from family history? How did that come about?
They had friends down in California, and my dad loves the big reds.
And I have to agree with him on that one. A good bold red just.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But of course, Burgundy, Pinot Noir, beautiful, elegant red as well. When we started out, I think we had Sauvignon Blanc, we had French Colombard, we had Zinfandel, we had Cabernet and Merlot. But these grapes, they didn't ripen in our climate, so it was completely experimental. But we do have the original Chardonnay vineyard, which is we're very well known for our Chardonnay.
Yes.
So it was hit and miss. Climate change was not happening soon enough. And we had to yank out a lot of grapes and graft over a lot of things.
And then as it came about, with his success, people realized, hey, there is something to this Oregon wine industry. So he kind of became almost living up to the St. Joseph's name. He really helped that industry come along, and really, from my understanding, has kind of helped make it what it is, and helped other people kind of learn about that.
Yeah, and our main focus has always been to be food friendly, and it's perfect because our climate, the nice acid in the grapes that we have, they lend themselves to be really food friendly wines, and that's kind of what he wanted to instill in people. When they started the winery, a bottle of wine with a cork was not something that you usually had at home that often. It was something you had for a special occasion, maybe in a restaurant, or if you did have it at home, you were aging something and it was more of a special occasion.
It's like those plates that we never used growing up.
Exactly. And, it was the days of Boone's Farm screw cap wines. And they just wanted to introduce a good valued wine for everyday consumption and bring that type of flavor to to your life daily.
Well, that's an interesting point because, I mean, I remember, even when I was growing up, that wine was something for rich folk. And that's kind of changed a lot. And it's become like an everyday person type of thing. How has that evolution of how just the general population views wine, how has that changed, or has it changed at all how you guys approach winemaking, or is it just basically kind of made it easier to do what you do?
Well, in Oregon, we are all things liquid. We are experts. So if it's coffee or it's cider or it's beer, and then particularly wine, that the demographic out here might be a little bit different than, let's say, the Midwest, where we're more food focused, and wine is a great complement to food.
Right.
And that's kind of how it started. And, with the Surgeon General, you're going to laugh, but the Surgeon General, just, let's say, 15 or 20 years ago, they said a glass of wine a day is good for you. And it did change the dynamic of the industry. And if you do the math, that's 7 cases per person per year is what you should be drinking. So we're just trying to help people.
I'm gonna have to up my intake, definitely. That's a good point.
I'm so okay with that, girl.
But wine is a great complement to food, and different wines bring out flavors in food and vice versa. So here, where people are somewhat a little bit more experimental, it's been a really good fit.
And I think another advance that maybe was just like the changing of the food culture in the country. I mean, food is no longer something you consume to stay alive. It's become a social thing. I mean, the kitchen is the gathering point of the house, and food is what brings us together, and that paired with good wine. So I kind of think these two evolutions of our society has really been a great thing for the wine industry, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So the next question is, as you look forward, where do you think these changes are continuing to lead? And I know I'm totally throwing you on the spot, but I'm kind of curious as you guys have been at that forefront in the founding of the wine industry. Where do you kind of see it going in the future?
I'll let you do that.
Well, the industry keeps growing. Every state supposedly has a winery now, which is kind of crazy. And now there's 700 in Oregon.
Oh, wow.
That's insane.
We're farmers and winemakers, so we're a little bit of both. So we are, wine to table, and we also vegetables to table right there on the spot.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is combine the experience. So in the weekends in the summer, you can come out. We've got a little bit of food. We've got a little bit of wine. We've got a little bit of music. You can enjoy. You can see where it's grown. You can taste stuff that is made right there. You can pick some vegetables if you need. And the food destination is such a great fit for Mountain Hood territory because we are in one of the places where everything grows, and everything grows well, and everything grows of high quality. And there's not that many places like this.
Well, and everyone here, that's one of the reasons everyone has come here or is from here who loves and stays here, is because of those things. And you mentioned your summer. I think you guys host more events than most wineries I know, and people look forward to them every year. So what spurred you to not only put on events, but the number that you do?
Yeah, because that one right there is iconic. The grape stomping. I saw you whisper.
Talk about how it started.
There's an I Love Lucy episode, wasn't it?
Because they're from Europe,
Yeah.
they always have a harvest festival of some sort in Germany.
Okay.
And they wanted to celebrate with the community the kickoff of the harvest season. And so we started a grape stomping festival, and first one in Oregon, and it's always a third weekend after Labor Day. And we have German music and brats and kraut, and we stomp grapes.
And we got to give a shout out to Lizzie from our office because she actually won a couple of years ago, and that's one of her crowning achievements is she won the grape stomping contest.
Bucket list for sure.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah, but we have a really nice facility and really nice grounds, and
beautiful, really.
For us, I guess it's somewhat of a business move, just bringing people to us and having them enjoy the wines on site, and we have more control over things that way. the industry has changed a lot. It used to be where you'd go to festivals and you'd sell a lot of wine, and you'd go to the grocery store and you would buy lots of local wines. That has really changed with corporate America coming in. So that has forced a lot of on-site sales to happen. I mean, that's what we're striving for, and wine clubs and making wine club events and just having a fun time.
Yeah. And people seem to really appreciate, that small winemaker and being able to if they come to St. Joseph's, they actually get to hear from you. It's not some, kid who's got a weekend job who's pouring wine, to pay themselves through college. They're meeting with the people who actually made the wine and getting to experience the passion, the love behind that wine. So that's going to be gratifying for you, because you get to watch somebody enjoy your creation. And I can only imagine how rewarding that is every day.
It is. And we have a lot of fun working in the tasting room. It is a joy. It's a labor of love.
We've seen firsthand Carl mixing and changing and tasting, and Jared got to taste with him, right?
That to me is one of my favorite memories of this job, is having just a tiny little part of actually creating a wine.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows that's probably the max I could ever accomplish in the wine industry, other than consuming it. But that was a lot of fun there. But actually that brings up a question for me, is because there is a lot of experimentation. So, I mean, how does that happen? You just wake up one day, it's hey, I feel like putting on the mad scientist hat. Let's go play with some different blends. Or are you always thinking about different things? Or is it shower thought, let's try this?
Entirely.
Well, sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's serendipity on making wine, and sometimes it's, wow, I've got a little bit extra of this one, I got a little bit extra of this one.
Let's see what happens.
And we grow a lot of Riesling, and Riesling had somewhat fallen out of favor, I guess.
That's a shame, because I love Riesling.
As people got into wine, they were oh, Riesling, that's what I grew up with. It's the first wine I had. It was Blue Nun. And they weren't used to a nice, sophisticated Riesling. So we said, okay, let's do something different. Let's make some of our Riesling dry instead of with a little bit of sweetness. Let's bring out the flavor of the grape. And let's not call it Riesling. Let's call it Katara. Name it after the son and daughter of the family. And voila.
Blend it with some other...
Blend a little bit of Pinot Gris into it and create a little bit more aromatic profile. And voila. And so we have this nice best-selling wine in the tasting room. And that's how it started.
I didn't know it was your best-selling one.
It's just one of our best sellers.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys also, you have a kind of history of naming wines after family members. I love the Lily. So will you tell us about that story?
We wanted to start making sparkling wines, champagnes.
And you're all about the sparkling wines over there.
Obviously.
Yeah, we've got some bubbleheads in our family.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to the tanks, right?
When we bought the new bottler.
And when we fell into this, I don't know, my dad knows a lot of people, and somehow we ended up with these 4 huge Charmant tanks from, I can't remember where. Remember where? I can't remember. Anyway, but we were just using them for storage, just for wine storage. And then we got into this bottling line that was a good deal, and let's just buy this bottling line, right? And my dad's been very, he's always had that entrepreneurial spirit, but also very controlling of his destiny. So a lot of people don't have a bottling line, and you have to rent the bottling truck that comes by, but that would mean you'd have to be on somebody else's schedule.
Oh, okay.
And that doesn't really work at our house.
I like that.
So we got this bottling line that could do counter pressure and could bottle sparkling. So that's how it all happened. We decided to let's use those tanks and let's use them for what they're made for. So we do sparkling wines now, and we named them after my mom, Lily. So they're the Lily Sparkling series.
And I love them.
She does, yes. I can definitely vouch for that. But without, going too deep down the rabbit hole of how it happens, what do you do differently to make the bubbles? Because I'm a little lost on that one, honestly.
You can.
Sparkling is a little extra process. So you bake a base wine, and then you add some special winemaking yeast that creates the bubbles. And then we do it. We have special tanks to do this. Charmat tanks is what she was referring to.
Okay.
And then that creates the bubbles, and then we can adjust the sugar levels and the acid levels to make it really palatable. And then we have this special bottling line that we can take it right from the tank into the bottles without it all foaming out and spilling.
That would probably be an issue.
Most of the time. And it was a boon, and her dad had always wanted to do it from the get-go. And then when these new machines came out, let's say in the 10 or 15 years ago, we lucked into one, and it showed up at the winery one day, and lo and behold. So it's been pretty exciting. And we've been making sparkling wine for some other folks to help them as well.
Oh, good.
So the question I always have for anybody who makes wine, makes beer or anything is, of your creations, which one's your favorite?
Oh.
And it's probably pretty hard because it's like saying pick a favorite child. But I like to put people on the spot. It's fun.
I love the Pinot Noirs. They're really subtle. They're soft. They're elegant. And we age some of ours in new French oak barrels just for a little bit. And so they get this kind of vanilla-y, toasty flavor to them, which I love on the reds. And then for the whites, I love our Pinot Gris and Chardonnay. Yeah. But honestly, I like a lot of our wines, and we kind of make the wines how we like them, because if you're not going to purchase them, we're stuck drinking them all.
You know how many different winemakers I've heard that line from, and it's like, maybe I just need to start making a wine just for that excuse. But
honestly, it just depends on what we're eating, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the pairing is so important. And as somebody who newly got into wine, a couple years ago, I'm learning, it's really important what you pair it with.
It makes such a big difference. Sometimes you just get it right, and it's not that 2 and 2 is 4, 2 and 2 is 5. It's just
she does math the way I do.
Yeah. What about you, Carl? What's your favorite?
He was hoping we forgot to ask him.
Well, we have this philosophy at the house that the open bottle is always the best bottle. And the tough part and we live very close to the tasting room, and the tough part is whatever is left over from the day is usually what's pouring at 5:05 in our kitchen. And so we're fortunate to drink something fun every day.
Yeah, I want to come to your kitchen at 5:05.
Right? Yeah, that sounds like an awesome place to be. So describe for somebody who hasn't been out there, what's the experience? Because, and I know it's hard to do this on a non-visual medium, but your grounds are gorgeous, and it's almost like going into like a private nature reserve or something. So I love the pond. I love everything about the grounds. I kind of want to like just live there. But you guys said no. I'm kidding. I didn't even ask yet. But you've created a truly experiential thing, again, before that was like a buzzword on tourism. So describe for somebody kind of what that whole philosophy is and that experience for somebody who's going to come to your winery for the first time.
Well, it is a working farm. So as you drive in, you're going to see the grapes flanking both sides of the driveway and on the hillside behind. We do have a beautiful pond. It's all spring fed. So it's filled and it's stocked with fish. No, you can't come fishing. We have some really nice wetlands down there that has been overgrown with blackberries. So we stumbled into some goats and llamas that take care of that now. Yay. So they do a good job. They had a fun snow day today.
Goats in the snow are hilarious.
Oh my, they're such drama queens.
But so cute.
Yeah. And so then we have this amphitheater that we had constructed that goes down to the pond, and it's rose lined, and it's we've got some music events down there, so that's a nice spot, and we do some wedding ceremonies and things like that down there. But then the original building is a 1905 dairy barn. and we renovated that and added on to what it is now. And it's got that German, French, Alsatian kind of feel to it.
It's kind of got that very rustic, European feel. That's just it adds another level of authenticity to what your father brought over.
Yeah, and we've been just keeping everything back to original, exposing some of the original wood floors. My grandfather helped lay the oak floor when we had our first tasting room in the big room there. So those were refinished, and it's a nice cozy, views of the vineyards, and a nice tasting bar. We've got a great staff that helps us out, so very pleasant people and great wines.
Well, and what's also special about you guys is that you kind of there's a typical season that you would think that you could come do tastings, but you guys keep it going most all the year. You guys are open. We've been talking about it, cellar season, but you guys are open. So, when did you guys get such a, not when, but how did you guys decide to kind of be open as much as you are, and how did you guys?
Yeah, because that's not something every winery does, but you guys are not always open, but you're much more than a lot of other places.
We're nuts, is what it is. It's a lot. We're open every single weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, noon to 5, unless there's a holiday spattered in there. Right. Then we're not. We used to be shut January and February in the early days, and when we moved down in 2004, or maybe even a little bit sooner, we would try to be shut, and we didn't have a gate at the time. But people came in anyway. So that's so fortuitous. That's so nice that they still came. And so we just decided, well, let's just be open then, because they were knocking on our door anyway.
The public demands it.
No, and now with many more wineries in the area, it's really nice. A lot more people are open on weekends, and so they can make a little journey of it. Trip.
And I touched on this before, but this is something that I always find really heartwarming, is the fact that you guys work so well with the other wineries in the region. And in something where it's so easy to be competitive, you guys kind of have that rising tide raises all ships type of mentality. And I think that's one of the reasons why the wine industry out here has become so successful. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. We used to be the only ones out on the east side over here. There was Markham Hill Vineyards over in Markham, and then Wasson Brothers. I mean, the three of us were the only ones over on this side. And it was so hard to hang out and be part of the camaraderie that was happening on the west side, because everybody was clustered over there. And we're so happy to have people in the same boat with us.
Yes.
Yeah, and we do. We help each other. We have a wonderful association called Cascade Foothills Wine Growers, and we collaborate and help each other out.
Well, and by being so collaborative with each other, I think that's probably what's aided in other wineries around you also staying open through the typically downtime of January and February. And it's such a wonderful time to come out. Obviously, it's exceptionally beautiful when it's sunny, of course. But if it's a day that it's, snowing or raining or just a little overcast, it's so nice to have your glass of wine in front of a fire or in front of a lake with your friends and just talk, and probably more access to you guys, the winemakers, to kind of have a little bit more of an intimate experience. So it's really a good time to come now too.
Any day.
It is.
Any day.
Just like your favorite bottle of wine is the open one, today is the best day to go to the winery.
Let's just remind Jared, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Well, okay.
But in April, we are open daily for tulip season.
And that was actually something I was going to talk about, because you guys are just down the road from the Wooden Shoe Tulip Farm.
Yes.
So go check out some tulips. Then, hey, why not pair that with some wine tasting in the afternoon?
Again, that came because people were just coming. We're curious by nature.
Well, you guys got a reputation. People want to go enjoy it. Well, we're going to do the fun part now, where we enjoy putting people on the spot. Yeah, this is the surprise. This is where the dramatic music comes in. Every podcast we end with is Molly curates 5 would you rather questions. And now we've got the both of you. So don't worry, they're nothing too, crazy out there. We're just, fun, simple stuff. And then we make fun of your answers later. Kidding.
But since we have them both, they should both have
totally
cancer, I feel. So.
Or actually be curious to see how similar they are.
I guess that's true. Okay.
We should do the whole newlywed game and make them hold up signs and match each other. I'm kidding.
Well, here we go. Let's start with this one. Guys, would you rather be in your pajamas all day or a suit all day?
That's not even a competition.
Pajamas.
I'm not going to say which one does stay in their pajamas.
Okay, if I could, same. So. All right. Because this is a good one. Would you rather have an unlimited gift certificate to a restaurant or a clothing store?
Restaurant.
Yes. When Tara was trying to schedule this, she was hoping that Carl would take her out to happy hour after the podcast, so I had to throw that one in there. Okay.
They're working against you, man.
Would you rather be a little late or way too early to everything?
Oh.
Wow, that's a deep one.
It's tough, too.
Dad. I hate
She's German. I know what she's going to be really early, and I am not.
When we lived in Seattle, we were the last car on the ferry. I think it's rude to be late, but I super think it's rude to be too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's tough.
Yeah.
That's why these are the tough.
So
Molly asks the hard-hitting questions.
Because I had to help that lady, with her baby on the freeway.
Right. There you go.
Ooh, there you go. Everybody gets mad at that. They're just a terrible person.
This is kind of a perspective question. So, would you rather hear the good news or the bad news first? If there's two to give.
If there are two to give, I'd rather have the bad news first and end with good news.
I'm the same. Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, absolutely that way.
Yeah.
Try to end on a positive.
All right. Would you rather be an Olympic gold medalist or a Nobel Peace Prize winner?
Wow.
Well, I think the Nobel Prize is more success-oriented for your whole life. But dang, those medals around your neck are pretty cool.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but don't you get $1 million for a Nobel Peace Prize versus the gold medal? You get nothing unless you pawn it.
Would that be curling gold medal? Because that's not quite as prestigious as some of the other ones.
It can be whichever gold
But
medal
it's
you want.
fun.
That's good.
I did try it once, and I used to make fun of it. Honestly, it was fun. That's the next thing you guys need to bring out the winery is a curling center.
Same, or do you have a different?
You'd be really smart if you got the Nobel one, but you'd be in really good shape if you got the
Unless we go back to the curling.
Nobel Prize.
Okay. What about you? I'm going to make you. What's your answer to that last one, Jared?
Wow. I just like making fun of what people say.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a good athlete, and I was marginally decent at tennis at one point until my shoulder decided to just fall out when I look at it funny. But that said, there's a lot of issues in the world, and if you could solve them with the Peace Prize, that'd be, leaving a lasting impact. That's a heck of a lot more important than the athletic achievement. And that's all the serious deepness you get from me today.
Okay, that's a very nice and deep answer, Jared. I still choose gold medal. All right, I'll let you close it out, Jared.
Well, Tara, Carl, thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it because, again, your story is a great one, and I appreciate you coming out to share it with everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
And thank you for listening to Territory Tales. Join us next time. We're going to have a great one where you're going to hear from Barb Iverson. We kind of touched on her farm a little bit ago at the Wooden Shoe Tulip Farm. Another great story there. Thanks for joining us at Territory Tales.